Hey, tea sippers, I'm back. I'm back. I don't know where to start. So, I'm already late. I gotta be done by midnight. And so I'm gonna go ahead and start instead of waiting on people to come in. I'm gonna start here with Candace. No. With Turning Point USA. Look like they got exposed. Let's go. Shout out to Candace for applying that heat. Shout out to Candace for applying that heat, baby, because a whistleblower
about not supporting Israel.
I'm going to go ahead and start because
she'll ask Tyler Boyer right to his face because she wants to know, what is the big deal about not supporting Israel? That's when he shut the door, pulled her in, and said, listen, I'm a Zionist. Candace Owens is a black conservative who wants to be relevant in this movement. And she's doing whatever she can at all costs to stay relevant. So that to me says a lot.
Let me just play this.
She'll ask Tyler Boyer right to his face because she wants to know, what is the big deal about not supporting Israel? That's when he shut the door, pulled her in, and said, listen, I'm a Zionist. Candace Owens is a black conservative who wants to be relevant in this movement. And she's doing whatever she can at all costs to stay relevant. So that to me says
so it's a black sign.
Let me just play this for you right now. Now, this is Matthew, the whistleblower from TPUSA, talking about he spoke to someone who's still inside TPUSA, and she had a conversation with Tyler Boyer, who, let's remember, was the COO.
A Turning Point USA whistleblower.
Still inside TPUSA. Matthew, the whistleblower from TPUSA, talking about he spoke to someone.
And she's doing whatever she can at all costs to stay relevant.
Because she's a
Zionist. Candace Owens is a black conservative who wants to be relevant in this movement. And she's doing whatever she can at all costs to stay relevant.
Why does it have to be that she's a black?
So that to me says a lot.
Wow.
Let me just play this for you right now. Now, this is Matthew, the whistleblower from TPUSA, talking about he spoke to someone who's still inside TPUSA, talking about he spoke. This is Matthew, the whistleblower from TPUSA, talking about he spoke to someone who's still inside TPUSA, and she had a conversation with Tyler Boyer, who, let's remember, was the COO, who Charlie was replacing.
And who was stealing.
Because he found, my speculation is he found financial chicanery. And
he was about to replace
Tyler Boyer, who, let's remember, was the COO, who Charlie was replacing, because he found.
Oh, so he was about to fire him.
And she had a conversation with Tyler Boyer, who, let's remember, was the COO, who Charlie was replacing, because he found, my speculation is he found financial chicanery and he wanted to get to the bottom of it, and he knew Tyler Boyer was behind it, so he got rid of Tyler Boyer as the CEO right before. But now he's going to tell you of a meeting that his friend who's on the inside had with Tyler Boyer, specifically about Charlie not being on board with Israel, but TPUSA being 100% Zionist. Let's listen.
My friend, when she was in his office, said to him, you know, what is it that you have, why are you so against Candace Owens, the Israel cause, etc.? She's brave, she's bold. She'll ask Tyler Boyer right to his face because she wants to know, what is the big deal about not supporting Israel? That's when he.
Let's listen.
My friend, when
hit the like button, coming in,
said to him, you know, what is it that you have, why are you so against Candace Owens, the Israel cause, etc.? she's brave. She's bold. She'll ask Tyler Boyer right to his face because she wants to know what is the big deal about not supporting Israel. That's when he shut the door, pulled her in, and said, "Listen, I'm a Zionist. Candace Owens is a black conservative who wants to be relevant in this movement, and she's doing whatever she can at all costs to stay relevant." So that to me says a lot. That is proof, and it's in the text that I sent you to, Stu, of where she confirmed, like, yes, he pulled me into his office and said that to me.
If you saw the news,
Wow.
the Fox News is claiming President Trump
Let's
is
get it out.
declining in the polls, and President Trump responded, says Fox.
Let's get it out.
So that's been my suspicion all along, that Charlie had turned against the Zionist project, Israel, the greater Israel. He had turned against them, turned down their money, and he had
100
lots
and
of
something
powerful
million.
Jewish donors who were Zionists and Christians who were Zionists. And once he turned against them, they needed desperately to get Turning Point USA back on the Zionist train, and that's exactly what this enabled. Because Erica's 100% Zionist, Tyler Boyer, you just heard, is 100% Zionist. They're all those pastors, Mikey McCoy's dad, Rob McCoy, they're all
devils.
Zionists, 100%.
And liars.
And liars. They're all
Yep, they definitely
100%
liars.
on that. They're liars and Zionists, and those are kind of redundant when you say that. But and so now, and if they weren't on the Zionist train, all their funding would dry up. Charlie had already turned down over $100 million from Benjamin Netanyahu, and all their donors were pulling their money out left and right because they got wind of Charlie not supporting Israel and Zionism, and so they had to get rid of Charlie, or else their whole organization was going to lose their money. And as we find out now from Wolves
His
and Finance,
organization.
that there's lots of financial chicanery and shell companies involved inside of TPUSA, and so Charlie was gonna. So it was all gonna go away. Their money, multi-million dollar grift was going to go away because Charlie was going to divorce TPUSA from the Zionist project and Israel, and they couldn't have that because then they have nothing. And plus, they wanted.
They could have started their own business.
Trump was getting ready for this big neocon militaristic buildup and takeover of Venezuela, Greenland,
So
bombing
Trump is
Iran,
in there too.
Yemen, whoever else, Cuba, Colombia, all this stuff he's getting ready to do. And they knew Charlie wasn't going to go for it. So there was all these, but that's the main reason. And so Charlie was going to, so it was all going to go away. Their money, multi-million dollar grift was going to go away because Charlie was going to divorce TPUSA from the Zionist project and Israel. And they couldn't have that because then they have nothing. And plus, they wanted all the things you said. Trump was getting ready for this big neocon militaristic buildup and takeover of Venezuela, Greenland, bombing Iran, Yemen, whoever else, Cuba, Colombia, all
He
this
went
stuff
down
he's
with
getting
that.
ready to do. And they knew Charlie wasn't going to go for it. So there was all these, but that's the main reason for the people inside TPUSA to want to get rid of Charlie and cover up who really killed him, was because they knew if they exposed who really killed him, all their Zionist donorship
That's why
money
he
would
knows
go away,
she
and they
knows
would have
Tyler
no
Robinson.
longer would have an organization. And that's always been my suspicion, and I think stuff like this proves it. What do you have to say?
I couldn't disagree with anything that you just said. Yes.
Yeah.
Exclamation point on all of that. There are hundreds of millions of dollars at play here. And when you have somebody like Erica Kirk, for example, who her entire life she has tried to be famous and be in front of the camera. She starred in movies, by the way, on Fort Huachuca, where she played the role of an assassin on a rooftop with a rifle. She's been Miss USA Arizona.
Suspicion, and I think stuff like this proves
Millions of dollars at play here. And when you have somebody like Erica Kirk, for example, who her entire life she has tried to be famous and be in front of the camera. She starred in movies, by the way, on Fort Huachuca, where she played the role of an assassin on a rooftop with a rifle. She's been Miss USA Arizona. She has been in CIA training videos. I mean, this woman has always, she was on national television dating and drinking, although be it she'll tell Barry Weiss that she doesn't drink, she doesn't believe in that, and she didn't date. Did she not realize that she was on national television? I mean, how could, she thinks you're an idiot. She thinks that everybody is really stupid. And all of these people think that you're really stupid.
Yep.
But this goes a lot bigger. I think this was, yesterday I just asked myself, how high does the ladder go here?
Hi.
And I think
Trump.
it really does go all the way to the Oval Office and to the Trump administration and Mar-a-Lago, I think that Trump personally, this goes to him, and this goes to the people that Trump brought to Charlie Kirk. These are all the
Absolutely.
same players. There
You
are
just saying?
several of them. They control private
Trump
equity. They
betrayed
control the central
Charlie
banks.
Kirk.
They are the big donors. And people like Tyler Boyer and people like Mikey McCoy and Erica Kirk, the people who are after the money, the people who want to be in the club, they want to hobnob, they want to rub elbows with them, they want to be invited to their $10,000 a plate Mar-a-Lago fundraising dinners,
Yep.
which was a whole nother thing.
And
They want to be
and they was
involved with
gonna
this. They
convince
want to
him to run
have
for
the fame and the
president.
notoriety and the power. They crave it. They have to have it. It's incessant. It's innately in them that they have to have this. And when they saw that being threatened, and they saw Charlie Kirk standing on his Christian values, standing on his convictions. Look, let's just be frank here. Brass tacks. There is not a place that you can go on the internet since October 7th of 2023 and not find this conversation. You can go to cooking channel Instagram pages and you will find stuff about this control structure and this power apparatus from Israel and from the Zionist cause and from the greater Israel cause. You can see that pressure everywhere. And you can see if you go to the comment sections on anybody's feed, on any platform across the entire internet, no matter the subject, you will find this as a talking point. There's no way that Charlie could have avoided this, especially when he's working in the most Zionist organization, that if he were going to be a man of character, conviction, values, principles, that when he learned of this, there was no way that he could avoid confronting it.
Nope.
And I really do believe, just by all of the circumstantial evidence and physical, all of the video evidence, all of the historical precedent, all of the previous relationships and associations, it's very evident to me, and I thoroughly believe this until somebody can prove otherwise, that Charlie Kirk really genuinely, authentically was having this real life kind of awakening in the same way that a lot of people have since October 7th. He was seeing this conversation everywhere, and he looked into it.
Yep.
And you don't have to look far. But when you are insulated, and when you are Charlie Kirk, and you've reached that level, and you have these handlers, and you have multiple phones, and you're being dragged from this college campus to that meeting with the president, to this planning meeting with TP Action, and this one with TP Faith, and this one with Turning Point USA, and you are stretched thin, you don't go looking. People have to bring things to you. People have to make you aware of these things. Well, there was no way to avoid this one. For him, for anybody, there's no way to avoid this conversation, no matter what
Not
side of
once
this
he
issue you
figured it
sit
out.
on. And that you just said, yes,
Yeah.
exclamation point on all of that. There are hundreds of millions of dollars at play here. And when you have somebody like Erica Kirk, for example, who her entire life, she has tried to be famous and be in front of the camera. She starred in movies, by the way, on Fort Huachuca, where she played the role of an assassin on a rooftop with a rifle. She's been Miss USA Arizona. She has been in CIA training videos. I mean, this woman has always, she was on national television dating and drinking, although be it she'll tell Barry Weiss that she doesn't drink, she doesn't believe in that, and she didn't date. Does she not realize that she was on national television? I mean, how could, she thinks you're an idiot. She thinks that everybody is really stupid. And all of these people think that you're really stupid. But this goes a lot bigger. I think this was, yesterday I just asked myself, how high does the ladder go here? And I think it really does go all the way to the Oval Office and to the Trump administration and Mar-a-Lago. I think that Trump personally, this goes to him.
Trump is
and this
involved.
goes to the people that Trump brought to Charlie Kirk.
Been
These
said,
are all the
been
same
saying it.
players. There are several of them. They control private equity. They control the central banks. They are the big donors. And people like Tyler Boyer and people like Mikey McCoy and Erica Kirk, the people who are after the money, the people who want to be in the club, they want to hobnob, they want to rub elbows with them, they want to be invited to their $10,000 a plate Mar-a-Lago fundraising dinners, which was a whole nother thing. They want to be involved with this. They want to have the fame and the notoriety and the power. They crave it. They have to have it. It's incessant. It's innately in them that they have to have this. And when they saw
Just
that being
meeting
threatened,
up with,
and they saw Charlie Kirk standing on his Christian values,
would change everything.
standing on his convictions,
Yeah, they had a plan. He
let's
thought
just
he
be
had
frank
somebody
here,
that was
brass
going to work
tacks.
for him.
there is not a place that you can go on the internet since October 7th of 2023 and not find this conversation. You can go to cooking channel Instagram pages and you will find stuff about this control structure and this power apparatus from Israel and from the Zionist cause and from the greater Israel cause. You can see that pressure everywhere. And you can see if you go to the comment sections on anybody's feed, on any platform across the entire internet, no matter the subject, you will find this as a talking point. There's no way that Charlie could have avoided this, especially when he's working in the most Zionist organization, that if he were going to be a man of character, conviction, values, principles, that when he learned of this, there was no way that he could avoid confronting it. And I really do believe, just by all of the circumstantial evidence and physical, all of the video evidence,
she was Trump
all of
first.
the historical precedent, all of the previous relationships and associations,
she
it's
was
very
sent.
evident to me,
She was sent.
and I thoroughly believe this until somebody can prove otherwise, that Charlie Kirk really genuinely, authentically was having this real life kind of awakening in the same way that a lot of people have since October 7th. He was seeing this conversation everywhere, and he looked into it. And you don't have to look far. But when you are insulated, and when you are Charlie Kirk, and you've reached that level, and you have these handlers, and you have multiple phones, and you're being dragged from this college campus to that meeting with the president, to this planning meeting with TP Action, and this one with TP Faith, and this one with Turning Point USA, and you are stretched thin, you don't go looking. People have to bring things to you. People have to make you aware of these things. Well, there was no way to avoid this one. For him, for anybody, there's no way to avoid this conversation. No matter what side of this issue you sit on, whether you think I'm just crazy and a conspiracy theorist and I'm hate-filled, whatever. If that's your position, fine, but you can't avoid the conversation. And so Charlie, when it came down to it, and he probably did a lot of research, he was a brilliant guy. He was really smart, very smart, articulated, well-read. You could tell all these things about him.
But wasn't smart and
there was just no way to avoid it. But these people knew that if he continues down, this is why they were saying in these text messages, quote, "We're very concerned." This is why they were very concerned that Charlie Kirk was about to, quote unquote, go ballistic. And it was on these things.
Hey, Cynthia.
And, it's not just Venezuela and it's not just Iran. We are talking about right now military action that will have the United States, the American war empire, on behalf of Israel's objectives. There's no way to skirt around that. At war with all of the BRICS nations.
Right.
And I've said this before. It's like there's no way to get around the fact that BRICS, although be it first and foremost as an economic alliance, you can't get around the military component of this when you're dealing with superpowers like China and Russia. And I don't even know. Quite honestly, we spent 20 years in Afghanistan and ended up handing all of our surplus military equipment and everything else right back to the Taliban. They're in control again. So to think that we could somehow take Iran, I don't know about that. I've seen Iranian, military propaganda videos. I've seen that. I know how these people train.
We couldn't even exactly. We couldn't even take Afghanistan.
No. And remember what happened in Vietnam?
And makes sense now.
A lot of people don't want to talk about this. Just before we went in the middle of the night with, some U.S. military contingent accompanied, I guess, by federal law enforcement agents to kidnap that country's president in the Western Hemisphere, a sovereign nation in the Western Hemisphere, and bring this nation's leader to the SDNY. That's a whole nother detour. But before we did that, they were considering like a real campaign to go in there, and they still are, by the way. If Paul Singer writes that check, and if Delcy Rodriguez doesn't do exactly as Paul Singer wants her to do with his Citgo oil, we'll be back into Venezuela. Can you imagine fighting in the jungle against these people? And here's what people don't want to talk about. There are videos that you can find, if you know where to look, of these Venezuelans who are training together, they're arming together, they have militias. There are millions of them that have buried themselves and entrenched themselves on every street all throughout and in the jungles of Venezuela. And they have said, we will oppose militaristically, we will physically, we will kinetically oppose any kind of American invasion, which may be why they did it the way that they did and went in and just got Maduro and said, hey, we just want to show the leadership here that we're about business and we mean that, and we're going to pressure these people through other kind of economic sanctions or a military blockade, whatever it might be. But
they getting prepared for us.
We're going to fight with Venezuela. We're going to fight with the same, by the way, situation. all of the American men that were cut to pieces in rice paddies in Vietnam, all of the men that we lost in that war, and now we're talking about Venezuela, guerrilla warfare in Colombia and in Cuba. I mean,
Yeah, he's trying to
we are
eliminate
stretched so
the
thin
men.
already that we can't protect
It's
or
a
choose
part of
not
the
to protect
takeover of
our
the
own borders
U.S.
and instead protect the countries that hate us.
Because
But
he's a
simultaneously
Zionist.
to all of this
He's
guerrilla
pro-Israel.
warfare that we would be going through in the jungle, similar and akin to Vietnam, we're now squaring off against these countries in the Middle East. We're squaring off against Russia. We're hijacking their oil tankers. We're hijacking Chinese oil tankers. We're taking them to hundreds of millions of dollars in oil and just poking the bear everywhere. While Miriam Adelson just keeps on shoving cash at Donald Trump, saying that she'll give him another $250 million if he decides to run for a third term.
But let me
And then
get,
he made the comment about a fourth term. I mean, all of this is stuff that, Jimmy,
That was
I
the
am
plan.
100%
Charlie
certain
Kirk was in there, though.
Charlie Kirk would be, quote, going ballistic over.
I agree with you. Hey, come see me live on tour February 20th
Yep.
in Lansing, Michigan.
I hate the majority of the people didn't hear this. Baby. Let's get to Candace now. A lot is going on. That was right on point. Bombshell, Trump official caught in election. Yeah. Hold on, I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing nothing good. Because a lot is going on.
We are anonymous. It still blows our mind how one person who actually gives a damn can outwork an entire media machine. Not because they have better cameras or bigger studios, but because they do something radical in modern America. They talk to people on the ground. They talk to the ones who actually see the mess, who have to live inside it, who know what is real and what is propaganda. And that is exactly what happened here. Multiple people inside ICE and Border Patrol.
He actually talks to people who are...
This man reminds me of the lead detective, the sergeant, whatever, on Chicago PD. He looked like that man that talks kind of, he talk kind of crazy on Chicago PD. That's exactly who they got him out here looking like running through the streets, being crazy. He is acting like Chicago PD guy. Go look him up. You're going to be like, he sure do. Let's go.
We are anonymous. It still blows our mind how one person who actually gives a damn can outwork an entire media machine. Not because they have better cameras or bigger studios, but because they do something radical in modern America. They talk to people on the ground. They talk to the ones who actually see the mess, who have to live inside it, who know what is real and what is propaganda. And that is exactly what happened here. Multiple people inside ICE and Border Patrol.
He actually talks to people who are like sources on the ground and know shit and can give you important information. And like, here we are. So this is incredible. You have a bunch of people from within ICE and the Border Patrol, a bunch of feds here who basically can talk to, and they were like, man, this shit is all fucked up. Let me tell you, so let's break it down here.
Hey, Joe.
ICE unloads. Immigration officer speaks out, quote, fuck this!
Reached out not to brag, not to posture, but to vent, to warn, to say in plain language, this is all getting out of hand. And it starts with a moment that the outside world is trying to frame like a cable news boxing match. The killing of Alex in Minneapolis. The way it gets packaged is predictable. Partisan battle. Republicans breaking ranks, the NRA making noise.
Framing the killing of Alex Preddy as some national and partisan battle, highlighting
And I don't even believe that.
ranks, the NRA protesting, MAGA wavering, and Chuck Schumer doing whatever he's doing. But no one is really capturing what the federal law enforcement officers on the ground are thinking. The truth is that they're fed up and have been for weeks.
Whatever he does to look concerned, without actually grabbing the wheel. But that framing misses what matters. It ignores what the federal law enforcement officers on the ground are thinking, and according to the people who spoke, they are not thinking what Washington wants them to think. They are not delivering the clean little story about heroic agents surrounded by dangerous enemies. They are angry. They are disgusted. And some of them are saying it outright. One immigration officer, someone who is not paid to be a commentator, put it like this: fuck this. Another one said the best they can do is shoot the guy in the back. Let that sit with you. That is not a protest chant. That is an officer talking about an officer. More than half a dozen reached out with alarm, and they all blamed the shooter, one of their own. The anger is not directed at some outside villain. It is pointed inward at the incompetence, the recklessness, the ugly pattern forming in public view. And the way they describe their own operation is almost humiliating. Not the image Washington sells, not the fantasy of an unstoppable force marching in perfect formation, but something closer to a chaotic low-budget cop show. They talk about mission creep, how they are being dragged into roles that do not match actual immigration enforcement. They talk about being uncomfortable with what they are being asked to do, and not just because it is unpopular, but because it is sloppy, confused, and full of legal and tactical problems. They describe gung-ho 19-year-olds itching for action, drunk stakeouts that have no business existing in a professional agency, and senior officers who disappear into meeting rooms and come back suddenly needing time off. This is what the inside looks like, not the poster. They are also furious about the information war coming out of Washington. The narrative gets written first, then the facts are forced to kneel. One officer said something that matters because it exposes the gap between loyalty and reality. He said he supports the administration, but there needs to be more common sense in situations like this, not a knee-jerk damage control narrative that does not line up with the evidence on video. That is the core of it. Video. Evidence. What people can see with their own eyes. Washington can shout all it wants, but people are watching the footage and noticing when the official story does not fit. In private chat groups, the talk gets even more blunt. Border Patrol agents said the individual was shot 8 to 9 times while unarmed. They said we cannot always support what happens just because it is one of us. And one ICE agent went harder, almost mocking the official line. Yet another justified fatal shooting. 10 versus 1, and somehow they could not find a way to subdue the guy or use something less than lethal. Then he drops the detail that makes it sting. They all carry belts and vests with what feels like 9,000 pieces of equipment, and the best they can do is shoot a guy in the back. The point is not just that someone died. The point is that the agency wants the public to accept a story of necessity when the inside voices are saying it looks like panic. Poor training and a culture that reaches for the gun first. Morale and standards come up over and over. Everyone spoke anonymously, and that alone tells you the climate. They do not trust leadership. They do not trust the political handlers. They do not trust the public to hear them fairly, and they do not trust their own agency not to punish them for speaking. They describe standards declining, professionalism slipping, and the feeling that the job has been hijacked. They say these problems were festering long before the deaths of Alex and Renee, and that the rot contributed to what happened. That is not a small claim. That is a description of an institution sliding into a more dangerous version of itself. And then there is the political poison dripping down from the top. Several agents complained about how Washington focuses on labeling protesters as impeding federal functions and therefore breaking the law, while turning everything into a cartoon war against Antifa and supposed paid agitators, leftist radicals, extremists, terrorists. They say this vilification is confusing the ranks, while also distracting everyone from the immigration enforcement mission. Think about that. When even the people inside the machine are saying the propaganda is messing up the mission, you are not looking at strength. You are looking at dysfunction disguised as certainty. One agent said the whole experience has been ridiculous.
But overall, it's been a ridiculous experience, one ICE agent told me. He says that many agents on the ground are just going along with the expanded mission because they are more interested in their away-from-home per diem pay and collecting overtime than whatever the mission is. Jesus Christ. Others express the cynicism typical of everyone who toils at the bottom of any bureaucratic food chain, poo-pooing rapid expansion of the ICE army and shaking their heads over the ridiculous budget increases being fought for in Washington that will have no impact where they work. The brand new agents are idiots.
He claimed many agents on the ground are going along with the expanded mission. Not because they believe in it, but because they are chasing away from home per diem pay and collecting overtime. Others scoff at the rapid expansion of the ICE army and roll their eyes at budget increases being fought for in Washington. That will not improve anything where they actually work. And then comes the line that is as ugly as it is revealing. The brand new agents are idiots. That sentiment, according to the voices gathered, was echoed again and again, with several suggesting the death was the fault of a skittish young recruit who panicked when he heard the word gun, if that is what happened. Now step back and remember how the propaganda tries to confuse you with nostalgia. People point to older footage, older operations, and say, look, this used to happen under Democrats too, but the difference is not the existence of enforcement. The difference is how it's done and what it has become. There is a story about a ride-along from years ago where an arrest was carried out early in the morning to avoid making a spectacle. Nobody else around. The person arrested says they are looking for his brother. They release him as soon as they realize. They find the right person, arrest him, and the operation is professional with an actual judicial warrant, not just an administrative paper shield. That is the comparison being made inside people's heads, and it makes the present look even worse. One response to that old footage was basically, how can you not see the colossal difference between then and now? And there is a simple political truth buried in that reaction. If enforcement were narrowly focused on undocumented immigrants, who are also violent criminals, you would not see the same national eruption of protests. The mass protests are not just about the concept of enforcement. They are about the spectacle, the aggression, the sweeping tactics, the feeling that this has become less about law and more about power. Inside that reality, the old guard and the new recruits are colliding. The story paints the new wave as more ideological, more eager for conflict, and in some cases tied to extremist vibes, with certain affiliations and certain attitudes that fit perfectly into Trump's world. The speaker's language is brutal. MAGA diehards with the IQ of a stapler.
This guy is affiliated with the Proud Boys or whatever fucking extremist white nationalist group. You know, this guy is such a MAGA freak and diehard, but he's got the IQ of a stapler.
People who want a badge, a gun, and impunity. People who are signing up because they want to hurt the groups they have been taught to hate. Immigrants, liberals, leftists, LGBTQ people.
Get ready to take an epic final journey with us.
I agree, it's spiritual though.
The official trailer
it's
for
good.
Outlander
It's
Season 8 is here.
between good and evil.
And yes, this gets linked directly to Trump's insanity and Stephen Miller's insanity, to the way leadership signals that cruelty is not a side effect, but a goal. But even as these insiders complain, there is an uncomfortable smell of self-protection. It is a kind of ass covering. Because if you've been part of an agency doing this work, you cannot suddenly pretend you are innocent because the optics got bad. The speaker says it plainly. You are the Gestapo now.
Yes, now, I'm sorry, you guys are 100% the Gestapo.
That is what you are. So do we really care about the moderate wing of the Gestapo?
Oh, boo-hoo. The fucking Gestapo are sad. A Border Patrol agent said in the private group chat shared with me, he closed on a
was about to be
Not really.
replaced.
The inside complaints might be real, but they do not erase what the institution has become. Even one of the new recruits agreed with the negative assessment. He said a lot of the new guys are sketchy. He expected federal agents to be clean-cut, but some of them pass around a flask while watching a suspect. He notices weird tattoos, and that detail matters because it points to a breakdown of professionalism that goes beyond politics. Passing around a flask on a stakeout is not normal. It is not respectable. It is a sign of a culture that does not fear consequences, that thinks the badge makes rules optional. Then you add the structure problem. ICE is relying on volunteers to go to Minneapolis and other Democratic cities on temporary deployments. That favors new recruits and overtime chasers. It is unclear how the task forces are organized or who is truly in charge. The people speaking say the tide is turning, that some agencies like the FBI are increasingly no-shows in the field, and others are reluctant to participate in non-immigration missions. Bad press makes people vanish.
FBI didn't want to help us out much anymore, especially Minneapolis, due to the bad press. So even Kash Patel's FBI is going...
Suddenly the bravado is not so loud when the cameras are pointed at the chaos. Another branch, enforcement and removal operations, is being squeezed to serve on the streets against protesters. The pressure is intense. People are exhausted. And then comes the legal reality check. They have no legal authority to do a lot of that protest work. Trump and Stephen Miller can tell them to do it, but their word is not law. That is the kind of thing older people in the system understand, and the newer ones, according to the voices here, are more likely to shrug and say why not. That is how a system slides from enforcement into political violence. Even Trump's public tone shifts when the backlash grows. There is mention of an unusually conciliatory statement, a phone call with Governor Tim Walz, a claim that they are on the same wavelength. But the voice telling this story calls it what it feels like, a head fake. A fake softening meant to calm the public while the machine keeps grinding. And inside the agencies, fear is rising. Threat briefings now focus on retaliatory threats. Meetings are scheduled with contracted DHS attorneys. Managers are called into meetings all night. The government versus terrorist narrative is having a tangible negative impact on the ground. Even the people doing the work hear the rhetoric and think it is heavy-handed. They say lots of people are freaking out. Agents are getting paranoid, afraid of being targeted, taking it seriously like they are fighting insurgents, as if Minneapolis is Baghdad. That is the mindset being described, and it is dangerous, because it turns fellow Americans into enemies in their heads. They frame the Minneapolis operation as something else entirely, an open-ended counterinsurgency run by leadership that is out of touch and obsessed with optics. They call it a no-win situation. And then in the private chat, someone says it is time to pull out of Minnesota, that the battle is lost, and they add the same blunt phrase again. Fuck this. Then comes the one part that does not involve the federal agencies at all, but explains why morale collapses. Protest work, people in the streets, a general strike. Energy, passion, bodies, observers, communities protecting each other. The noise outside the hotel, the agents unable to sleep, the hotel not wanting them there, the constant pressure of public resistance. The story claims it made their morale non-existent. Whether you sympathize with them or not, that detail shows what collective presence does. It changes the environment. It denies comfort to an operation that relies on intimidation and routine, and the narrator makes the moral line clear. Zero sympathy for them, even the ones pretending to be moderate. The real victims are the families of Alex and Renee. Do not get it twisted. Whatever infighting is happening inside the agencies, whatever panic is spreading in the ranks, none of that brings back the people who are dead, and none of it cleans the stain off what Trump turned this system into. That is the story as it stands. A machine that wants to look unified, but is cracking under its own contradictions. A leadership that sells certainty, while insiders describe confusion. A culture that drifts toward ideology and impunity while pretending it is just procedure. And a public that can see the difference between lawful enforcement and political force dressed up as law.
Yeah, but I've been saying that he was betrayed by Trump. Okay, so let's get to Candace. He trusted him. He looked up to him. And they had an agenda for him. He was supposed to be the next president with probably one of his sons as VPs. They had it all mapped out.
All right, you guys, I'm so excited about this episode. I am sitting across from somebody who...
Okay, let's get the likes up, y'all. I'm shifting gears. And didn't realize that this... Hold on, let me change the background for Candace. And her guess. I'm glad she got out that Zionist.
Who I should mention is extremely jealous. All right, you guys, I'm so excited about this episode. I am sitting across from somebody who I should mention is extremely jealous of me. And I'll let you listen to what he had to say to me in his own words at his recent show.
And I was even nominated to be Anti-Semite of the Year 2024. But I didn't get it. I didn't win. You know who won last year Anti-Semite of the Year? Candace Owens. Yes, Candace Owens. Yeah.
Wow.
King DI. Some liberal woke You had to give it to a black woman. Yeah, but this year, who got the Anti-Semite of the Year this year? Yeah, Tucker Carlson. Yeah, white power, Josh. Yeah, baby. Yes, yeah, baby. Yeah, yes. Yeah, the planet is healing. And actually, one of the nominees for the Anti-Semite of the Year this year was Miss Rachel. Imagine you and Miss Rachel having one thing in common, and that thing is anti-Semitism.
The world has gone a little bit ridiculous. I do have to say that's one of my favorite accounts because I feel like it's Forbes 30 under 30. Like every time they mention anybody there, I'm like, oh, I should be following this person.
Yeah.
Thank you,
What is
self-made.
it? Stop anti-Semitism. And
Yes.
it's never
thank you. I so
anti-Semitism. The count
appreciate it.
is a parody of itself.
Yeah.
But I do want to say it wasn't DEI. I think I just performed better in 2024 than you did.
I'm just jealous.
Yeah, you're jealous.
I'm bringing my jealousy to the show. I'm bringing my jealousy to Nashville, and I'm just very upset that I
let me
didn't win.
switch
That's
so
what-
you
that
can
would be
drop
like
your
the award that I would have really
who
deserved.
in here?
I know, and you tried to get all of your people to vote for her, and
Yes.
like you tried to skip the system. I didn't even ask people to vote for me. I won it fair and square,
Nobody in here yet.
in large part thanks to the fact that I was fired
Self-made,
from
you
the
want to
Inquirer
drop
that
your
year.
link?
Yeah.
And you had a little something to do with it.
Did I?
You did,
How come?
actually. This
How
is a
come?
story that I've never told.
Okay.
But or I think you had something to do with it, but I was not allowed
Hold
after
on.
I had watched you, and we should show that clip in a little bit, but you were my wake-up call to what was happening in Gaza. So I watched you, the clip went crazy viral. You were with Piers Morgan, and this is why comedians are the best, because you were not fighting, you were agreeing with him. It was like dark humor, and you held up a chart and asked what the going exchange rate was for Palestinians.
Yeah.
You were like, I agree with Ben Shapiro. No, I agree. No, obviously we gotta kill these sons of BITCHs, and here's what we did this year, and this is how many of them had to die.
Yeah, I'm
And
gonna give
seeing
you
that
a link,
chart and going, wait a second,
a
what is
tool
going
so
on?
that you
Why
can
are this
drop
many
your links. I don't
Palestinians
have any
dying?
moderators in yet.
Woke me up to the fact that there was a huge part of the conversation I wasn't aware of. And so I went to my producer at the time and I said, we should get this guy on. He's going viral. I don't know who he is, but like I really would like to like just hear the other side. And my producer ran it up the chain and came back to me and said, we are not allowed to have Bassem Youssef on. And I said, that's weird. Why? And the answer I got was because you hurt Ben's feelings. I'm
Are
not
you
kidding. She
sure?
got it in writing.
I heard Ben.
Let me see if I can get it.
I'm sorry, Ben. I hurt you. Did I hurt your feeling? I'm so sorry. I hurt your feeling. Here's the thing about Ben. I'm gonna say this in all honesty. I think Ben Shapiro is a very, very, very talented individual because he's a very confident liar.
A
He
very
just
confident liar.
lies very easily, and he lies so good that I feel ashamed that I can't believe him. You know, and the thing is, he's a fast talker. Right? You know why he's a fast talker?
Yeah, I
Because
don't like
facts
that
cannot
fast
catch
talking.
up. He just like
Hello,
catch up.
he
Lafa.
talks. You know how fast
From
he
the
talks?
Hamptons.
He's like a robotic frog. And actually, if you hear
Thank
like
you.
like Ben Shapiro, it's like
Please
someone
hit the like
actually
button
sped
for me. I
up
would greatly appreciate
the
it.
voice. Actually, if you slow him down, you'll get a normal voice. Because as he speaks very quickly, the truth is still buffering.
It's just still buffering.
Yeah, and I'm actually like I'm very surprised that I heard Ben feeling because Ben says like the facts don't care about your feeling.
Yeah, well,
But with Ben, they don't care about the truth either.
yeah, and so that's one of the things is he never actually debates adults, and
Never.
so it was a time where I genuinely wanted to learn more because I was astonished by what the chart that you had showed, and I was going, whoa, 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 I've been to Israel, I've been in the orbits, how did I just miss this entire thing? And surely there must be something else, and once I host a debate or have a different discussion, then I will see the Israeli way and be able to better defend my positions. And then I very quickly learned that you're not allowed to go down that path. You're not allowed to start asking meaningful questions. And then, of course, I did become really hateful. I tweeted, genocide is always wrong. So,
Oh my God!
yeah.
How could you?
I don't know, it just adds.
Genocide is always wrong. Every single word of this is
I know. I was.
is ground to fire. But here's the thing: I have 3 different stories about Ben Shapiro to show how talented he is about changing the facts in real time. The first story happened very recently in Turning Point, USA, when a young kid came up, like a gentleman. He said started asking about the bombing of the USS Liberty, and the way that Ben Shapiro answered, he was just lying through his teeth very quickly. And he started to say, well, there has been investigation and it was obviously wrong and it was obvious and it was proved beyond any doubt that it was a mistake, which wasn't. There was a lot of investigation where they weren't. Actually, the crew of the USS Liberty were threatened. They had the gag order. They couldn't talk. And you know, the beauty about this is that
Raising Cane's, we focus on making the most craveable chicken finger meals, getting them right every time.
This is one of the biggest ideas we've ever had to pull off.
I tweeted out
Yeah,
that I listed
you
out
got
this
to do the
idea for
research
commercial.
on the
For
Zionists.
15
They are
years,
devil
Israel
worshippers,
fought this tooth and nail,
and
they finally
they
paid compensation. You
sacrifice
know how much did they pay? $6 million for damages
kids.
of the USS Liberties and $6 million for the
In my
victims
research,
of the USS Liberty. This is the value of USS soldiers that were killed in that. And you can see him as he was debating the kid, that he was just making things up. It was already proven. It was already behind the bridge. It's the past. That's the first one. The second time, he was on the morning show with Charlemagne the God. And Charlemagne asked him, did Israel commit genocide? And he started going through this Jordan Peterson word salad style, just speaking very quickly, having like big talking. This is not a genocide because they intended. And then
yeah,
you can
that
see
fast
Charlemagne
talk.
looking at him as like, that motherfucker is lying, but I cannot say how. You know, he's looking at this like, this guy is lying to me, but he cannot pinpoint it. The next day, Mehdi Hassan came on the show, and he went through details why is Israel committing genocide. But if you're there and he's speaking too fast, you don't know what he's saying, so you cannot respond. And the third story is my favorite, because this was a premeditated, manipulative lie. He talks a lot about how Hamas uses the aid from the European Union to create weapons, right? That's his whole thing. And then he brought in a video with Hamas and the Palestinian authorities in Gaza digging out water pipes. And say, you see, these are the water pipes that are put in by the EU, and this is Hamas extracting them and making weapons from them. The beauty about this clip, that this clip had an Arabic narration. It has Hamas officials talking over it. And they said that they discovered water pipes inside, being dug from inside Israel to steal their water. So when they discovered it, they dug it out and they used as weapons against Israel. So he took a video, knowing exactly what their narration is, and he changed it. And actually, a shout out to Wali Rashid. You actually brought a video from him in your show before about the little moles, the little Israeli nodes in the malls, if you remember. Yeah, like little spy nodes in the US malls.
That's right.
So this is like 3 examples how this guy lies intentionally. He lies with purpose. He knows exactly what he's saying, whether it was like if he's
Intentional.
put on the spot, or he's asked a question that he has to make up, or he's making up a complete out of thin air.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't really. I always start by saying I'm going to get in trouble, but I don't really care. Because I think humanity just needs to be over all of this. Like the fear of telling the truth is something that is so scary to consider, that so many human beings are allowing terrible things to happen because there's this like quiet fear that you'll be penalized for speaking the truth. And that's what I gave up in 2025. 2026 Candace, I'm not keeping anybody's secrets. But to your point about the USS Liberty, just to show you how far this goes in terms of protecting the secret, Phil Turney sent me a letter, and one of the survivors of the USS Liberty. When I tell you it was the most meaningful sit down I've ever had in my life, and rarely would I say that like everyone looked like they were going to cry here when he went through and what he lived
Thank
through.
you, Joe.
And you listen to him, you just know he's telling the truth. You don't even need to hear anything else. The emotionality still lives in him. And from time he was 20 and now he's 76, that he just wants the story to be told about what happened to his mates on that boat. And I did this episode with him, met him, looked him in the eye, cried with him. He gave me his Purple Heart. And then I got sued by the Daily Wire. This is after I left
wow.
because during his sit down, he brought up 2 names. During our sit down, obviously, I had no idea what this man was going to say. It was not in his letter that he sent to me, but he looked at the camera and he said, and I'd like to call out the people that are saying that this was a hoax. And he said, Charlie Kirk said something, and I was always very close to Charlie's dear friend of mine, and he was like, and Ben Shapiro said something, and they sued me.
Wow.
They sued me for allowing a
Charlie Kirk
to tell his story. And they were making it a psychic argument that I put him up to it. Like I could with him. He gave me his Purple Heart. And then I got sued by the Daily Wire. This is after I left Daily Wire. Because during his sit down, he brought up 2 names. During our sit down, obviously, I had no idea what this man was going to say. It was not in his letter that he sent to me. But he looked at the camera and he said, and I'd like to call out the people that are saying that this was a hoax. And he said, Charlie Kirk said something.
Can you believe? Oh, so I guess the Daily Wire sued her, not Charlie Kirk. I mean, I'm sure she would still be going hard for him because that was still her friend. But here go, Laquita. But I don't know if I could have done that. If you sued me because my guest said that they disagreed with you, what gave them the right to sue her on somebody else's story? But let's keep listening.
Else, the emotionality still lives in him, and since from time he was 20 and now he's 76, that he just wants the story to be told about what happened to his mates on that boat. And I did this episode with him, met him, looked him in the eye, cried with him. He gave me his Purple Heart, and then I got sued by the Daily Wire. This is after I left Daily Wire. Because during his sit down, he brought up two names. During our sit down, obviously, I had no idea what this man was going to say. It was not in his letter that he sent me. But he looked at the camera and he said, and I'd like to call out the people that are saying that this was the hoax. And he said, Charlie Kirk said something, and I was always very close to Charlie's dear friend of mine, and he was like, and Ben Shapiro said something, and they sued me.
Wow.
They sued me for allowing a survivor to tell his story.
Right.
And they were making it a psychic argument that I put him up to it. Like I could ever be so disgusting as to manipulate a man to say something so that I could, like, I mean, it was, and then I had to actually call Phil after this and say, I'm going to court. And I know this is, I would never want to ask you, but like, would you be willing to testify that I didn't put you up to say something? But just to show you the extent, like to manufacture reality that you're willing to attack this guy twice. I mean, twice.
Yeah.
Calling this guy a liar twice, and it's just, I couldn't believe it. We were so far. I mean, I was being sued left and right for them for everything, but that I thought, I was just like, this was Jeremy Boring being at the helm of the Daily Wire.
Boring.
Yeah. Sent me that lawsuit on his birthday.
Well,
as a birthday
that's very boring and
yeah.
predictable.
But
there's going to be a lot of lawsuits for this episode. Hi.
Yeah, and I gave it up last year. I said, this is crazy. This is how we got into this, to understand what's happening in Gaza, to see what Jared Kushner is doing there. This was a real estate deal, and they are what they're willing to do in America to make sure nobody remembers Palestinians. You can already see getting laws passed, how we're going to retell history. I mean, they're saying it on stage.
Yeah, like Mike Pompeo went on this...
the new Gaza.
The way that we're going to remember October 7th.
The New World Order.
Today, it's very important that people remember this as Israel being the victim, because there was no victims in Gaza. And they already have... I have a friend of mine who went to the film festival, the Cannes Film Festival last year, that 1 year after October 7th. And they were already... have pledged over $200 million to produce TV shows, movies, in order to retell October 7th from the Israeli point of view. And they are changing history in front of us right now.
Never ever sue the driver who crashed into you after a car accident.
Sorry.
Or what happens in Palestine. Because of how people saw the gaslighting, he went on this thing and he said, like, the way that we're going to remember October 7th is not going to how we remember it today. It's very important that people remember this as Israel being the victim, because there was no victims in Gaza. And they already have... I have a friend of mine who went to the film festival, the Cannes Film Festival last year, that 1 year after October 7th. And they were already... have pledged over $200 million to produce TV shows, movies.
What do you mean there are no victims? Only associates are out.
And
I don't believe that. I think there are victims
in front of us right now. And I think this is not just about what happened or what happens in Palestine. Because of how people saw the gaslighting happening in real time and how the lying is happening
everybody's
in real time,
not involved with the fight.
Are reconsidering everything they were told about history, from World War II to JFK to 9/11 to the Iraq War, because we have seen an Olympic level gaslighting, because Israel
Oh my
doesn't just
God.
lie to hide the truth. They lie recreationally. They just do because it's fun for them. They just it's and the way that they just like lie to wear you down. Because now you look at all of what is being told to us. Like, how can you believe a country that has a very lucrative history of false flags operation, right? There's actually two false flag operations. There's many of them. First of all, you have like the bombing of the King David Hotel in Palestine. 1990, like 92 British soldiers were killed, and the people who did it were people from the Haganah gang, and they were dressed as Palestinians. 1950, 1951, there is a Jewish Israeli author called Avi Schleim. He's an Iraqi Jew. And he wrote 3 books about the plight of the Jewish people in Iraq. And the plight of the Jewish people in Iraq was not caused by Iraqis. It was caused by the Israel and Mossad, because when they created the state of Israel, they didn't know how to bring all of these Jewish people from the Arab countries. It was easy to bring them from Europe, but they didn't. But like Jewish people in Iraq and in Egypt and Morocco lived there for hundreds of years. So they needed to push them. So 1951, Israel sends a Mossad agent, and then he leads 4 to 5 different bomb attacks on Jewish synagogues and Jewish community. They killed their own people.
October 7th.
And yes,
Oh, wow.
and that happened in Iraq. And then because of that, 150,000 Jews went in just like a year and a half to Israel. And then the same guy that Israel sent to, his name escapes me now. After Iraq, he went to Egypt, and he led the Lavon affair in 1954.
Because they said that Bibi Netanyahu used to
after the
fund
sleeper cell,
Gaza.
the espionage cell was
Before
discovered.
he bombed them, he
Start
turned
my
on
day
them.
with me. I'm a jeweler at Shane Company, and I'll show you 5 ways we make your engagement ring special.
Israel denied any connection to those people, of course, for 51 years. And then in 2005, they finally acknowledged it by giving the participants in the Lavon affair operation participation certificates, like an Amazon card or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then 1994, the bombing of the Israeli embassy in London, it was done by Mossad, and then they kind of nailed 2 Palestinians for it.
So it's almost like he made
1 month after 9/11,
was
which is the
friendly
biggest
and
full
then
flag
turned
operation.
around and
In October
turned on
2001,
him.
there was an attack of the Mexican parliament by 2 Mossad individuals, and they were also like being they pretended to be Palestinians, but they were discovered before the bomb. So you see all, and of course we have the Bondi attack. I think I gave pictures to one of your producers, like Arson Ostrovsky, who's like one of those trolls on Twitter. He happened to be on October 7th, a survivor of October 7th, and then he posts his picture, a selfie, while he's on the floor, and he has blood all over him. Yeah, that's the picture. Okay, which is obviously looks fake. And then the best picture is the next picture when he's all bandaged. Can you get, yeah. You see,
like
there's not a
almost.
single point, like drop of blood on the bandage, and there's no self-respecting medic that will actually leave a face like this stretch of blood. They will have to clean it first. This is how can you believe a country that lies 24/7 like this? How can we take anything that they say for face value?
Yeah, it's scary. It is actually scary, and I will say that. And it's that's why I think for me to try to understand it, I had to figure out what is the guiding theology here, because this is obviously not Judaism. This is like, that will not kill you. You can't just violate that commandment and over again, and then keep insisting that this is about I'm a Jew, I'm a Jew. And the further that I went back into history and would see how there were little edits to books, and I've now done my book club, and I encourage people to understand the founding of Hollywood, because what you're talking about is a troupe of actors, performers. They were the carnies. They were gypsies. They will become whatever they have to become to amass power. And I have been like virtually pleading with the people who are Jewish and stand up against Zionism to learn this, because these people appear everywhere in different countries. They will learn languages. They will, we're Catholic today, we're this tomorrow. And it's basically what Hollywood is. If you think about it, it's one big psychological operation. All of the movies that they make sure they get into the classroom. They're brainwashing your children to believe that they're always victims, that nothing else ever happened. And then when you start to learn real history and you start to ask questions, and for me, me learning more about the Bolshevik Revolution and then going, hey, but where did all these Bolsheviks go? B.B. Milikovsky.
What? I'm on it. Get off of it.
Now he wants you to think that he's just Jewish and there's nothing else to see here. No, this is they will become whatever they have to become. They are like their brains are. B.B. Milikovsky. Now he wants you to think that he's just Jewish and there's nothing else to see here. No, this is they will become whatever they have to become. They are like their brains are their brains are wired. It's a pathology. Their brains are wired to lie. Zionists. It is. I've never seen anything like it. To not feel anything when you lie on people, when you smear them, people you knew, people you were friends with, people who like Charlie Kirk. Okay, how quickly they can flip the switch and be guns out and want to ruin you. That is not normal. We cannot pretend that is normal.
100%. And I actually want to say something like on behalf of a lot of my Jewish friends because they suffer from this too. A lot of my Jewish friends who see that their identity and their religion is being hijacked by a group of people who are very selfish, who just like use this as a victimization tool. It is like exactly if Muslims saw people from ISIS and Al-Qaeda suddenly hijacking our culture, hijacking our religion, but now they have money and power to actually make this the mainstream. And a lot of my Jewish friends feel that they're silenced, they're sidelined. We have seen a lot of like Jewish artists, directors and actresses and actors, they go on and they speak up. And you see what happens. They're being called an anti-Semite the next day. One of my closest friend, Matt Lieb, he's a comedian. He's a stand-up comedian. He has like a whole show called Bad Hasbara, and he just talks about like the Hasbara techniques. He told me that at the age of 26, he was like a raging liberal Zionist, and he went on a birthright
liberal Zionist.
And then the one thing that he flipped him, he said like we were like a bunch of 20 years old. And then we find that the main speaker in our event was Benjamin Netanyahu, accompanied by Miriam Edelson. It's like, wait a minute, this is too much effort. This is too much effort to get us in. And then he went back and he started to read more. And he's like completely now, he's an anti-Zionist Jew. And there's many of these people, and I feel so bad that
anti-Zionist Jew.
In our event was Benjamin Netanyahu, accompanied by Miriam Edelson. It's like, wait a minute, this is too much effort. This is too much effort to get us in. And then he went back and he started to read more. And he's like completely now, he's an anti-Zionist Jew.
Oh yeah, they horrible.
And I feel so bad that they have to, they can't help it that not to take many of this on themselves. That all of these stuff that those Zionist people do kind of reflect on the whole community, but there are so many people who are just like sick and tired of being grouped with those psychopaths.
Because that's what I'm saying. It's not a religion. It's a political philosophy, and that's why it's so important to separate it. Like Zionists are just tried and true psychopaths. There's no way you could look at what happened in Gaza, to look out at what they did, how they told us they were going to do it, talking about real estate deals. I mean, you got to pull this up, Skylar, when you get a second, just some of the video footage of what Gaza looks like today, and then to look you in the face and feel nothing and say, no, that was necessary response to October 7th. There's something wrong with you. And then when they can't train people to be inhumane alongside them, the viciousness with which they attack people for being human, that's why I say I can't wrap my head around it. I actually wonder what happened to these people when they were kids, because something inside of you has flipped. This is not like any person should have a humane response to seeing, here we go, humane response to seeing what they've done. This is, and that's not even, that's before. This is basically when they got started. I mean, they have raised this city, and
now there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
The blackmail, the Epstein stuff, the defense of Epstein, gaslighting us about Epstein, and you go, okay, it's literally, I don't care if you are Jewish, if you are Muslim, if you are Christian. I mean, obviously, I want you guys to all be Christian, but can we all unite to recognize that we have Satanists among us? Like this is a satanic philosophy that you have to be worshiping death to be okay with.
I have a question for you as a Christian. Because we just talked about a small group of people hijacking a whole faith, which is Judaism. And now, similarly, you have all of these evangelical Zionists.
Yeah.
People who go to Israel and come back and they just like brainwash their followers in the church. And when I look at videos where inside the church, the only flag other than the American flag is the Israeli flag. And then there's a viral video clip from a documentary called Till Kingdom Comes. And the pastors are talking to the little kids. They say like, Jews are better than us. They are more special than us. They are not like us. I mean, you are a man of God. And now your mission is to tell your congregation that you are not special enough. That there's people from another religion that are more special than you, and it's like you basically going and giving away your life saving to the church, only to have your kids listen to someone say like, "Hey guys, you're nothing. You're nobody, and there's other people who are more worthy than you to be holy." I don't know how that works.
It doesn't. I'm not evangelical, and I think for the first time, many people that are evangelical are waking up to that, and it's incredible to say that is in large part due to the Charlie Kirk assassination and us looking into the story, looking into the pastors that he surrounded himself with, and then we kind of looked into what this Calvary Chapel Church was. It's a military operation. I mean, this is literally a CIA operation. People like Rob McCoy, who was one of the pastors that purported to be close to Charlie. He wasn't. Actually, Charlie couldn't stand him toward the end, so that's another big lie that Turning Point should come out and tell the truth about. But his father ran psychological operations for the Navy. This entire church, Calvary Chapel Church, is a CIA story. Okay, a place for hippies to go. Who do you think created hippie culture? I mean, I give people the books to read. You gotta read Chaos. It's a must read. Understanding what they accomplished in the 60s. LOL to anybody who thinks that suddenly a bunch of people just wanted to smoke pot and, leave their families and go play guitars out in the West. I mean, the 60s, that entire decade was all about military experimenting with social engineering, and social engineering via things like the Manson murders, social engineering via establishing churches. Everybody's welcome here. But what is the underlying goal? The underlying goal of many of these churches, too many of these churches, is to commit people to Israel by any means necessary, to believe that they will not be saved unless they worship Miriam Adelson and Bibi Netanyahu.
Yep.
Which is wild. Miriam Adelson's
That's what they're trying to push.
Debauchery. I mean, what are we talking about? They built Las Vegas.
And OnlyFans.
Godly.
I went through a rabbit hole watching a lot of these pastors talking to their congregation, and it shocked me how they talk down to their own Christian congregation and tell them how special Jewish people are. And it's okay that they spit on Christians. It's okay that you cannot build a single church inside Israel. Because we know God told us all of that. God has told us that Israel will be so entrenched in sin.
Here at Oaks Kia, we believe you don't need gimmicks to sell cars, just good, solid deals. Get 0% APR for 72 months on all.
And it's a sign of the times, and it is our role to be next to them until
that's
God
not the
brings
same
them back to
Israel.
the right path. And until that happens, it's okay to kill all of these people. It's okay to give all of your money to that entity. And if you don't bless Israel, you're going to be cursed. It is just like the mental gymnastics they use in order to bring their own people, their own Christian followers down, in order to be loyal, not to God, not to Christ,
but to them,
but to
their cause, their cult.
Right. No, it is upside down land, but I think it's being fixed and it's being corrected. And like I said, it's in large part due to people learning the pressure that Charlie was under. And this is a person who was evangelical. He was a Zionist. He truly, and I know that you have an opinion about Charlie and the stuff that he was doing, but I can tell you that Charlie was genuine. In the same way that I always say to people, I obviously regret that I worked inside of Zionist organizations. I regret my ignorance. I shouldn't say I regret that I worked there, because I actually believe that God put me there for a reason, because I had to see it from the inside, and I can give people now clarity on how these things work. But I regret that I was ignorant about what was happening in Gaza. And I think people should know that Charlie, me, we were genuine in our support for Israel because we genuinely believed we were being told the truth by our friends.
Yes, and
that's the reality.
I have a couple of issues with Charlie. I mean, God rest his souls, and I hope that justice will be served to all of the people who've actually killed him.
All the people.
I do agree that he was kind of starting to wake up towards the end because he
Yes.
started asking the question, especially on the PBD podcast. He said something that I said in the first appearance with Piers Morgan. I said, like, Israel is the size of New Jersey, and why would it take you 6 hours for a response while you can get there in a helicopter by 20 minutes?
Yeah.
And that's like a very simple question. But if you ask that, that's your anti-Semite. But and he asked other question about the stand-down orders. He started talking about like the aid. He was coming from an America first point of view, which I respect. But my issues with Charlie were a couple of things. First of all, I think you already saw the video when I said he kind of falsely claimed that if you're a Jew going to like an Arab neighborhood in Jerusalem, you're gonna be stabbed. And now I understand that this is what was told to you.
Oh, they take you on a tour.
And they brainwash you.
Yeah.
But the other two things that I again, he's now between the hands of his creator. But when he said close to his death, well, Muslims, they throw gay people out of high buildings. Now there's no high buildings in Gaza anymore for like stupid Muslims, and that hurt a lot of Muslims seeing that clip. That was
I didn't see this clip.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very terrible because it's like you have no buildings now to throw gay people out from above it, stupid Muslims. And then the day before he died, he tweeted saying that Islam is the sword the left is using to slit America's throat. So he wasn't liking us more, and I understand that because maybe he will be on his own path if he was given the time.
Charlie didn't run his Twitter feed. Andrew Colbert did. So I just want to say that.
Okay.
He gave that up. But that is interesting. I don't remember him tweeting that, but he did think that the threat of Islam, he totally believed that. And he spoke about that several times. And so
But you, at a certain point, you also had very negative ideas about
Yeah.
Islam. I remember
did.
you saying
it's
that
a part of the package.
Yeah.
So it's like when you go, like I was saying, on this tour to Israel, it's so weird to revisit it because I don't think I'm an idiot, but apparently I was just accepting everything that people that I thought were my friends and were Zionists were telling me because they're very good at playing the part like they are your friends and they want you to be good and they want you to avoid the traps, like they're guiding you and you're new to politics and let me try to look very quickly so you understand what's happening. And here we are just trying to open an embassy. That's what me and Charlie were there for. Here we are just trying to open an embassy and like look at these terrible Muslims that are like throwing things at us and trying to murder people at the border, and you're going to be safe and we've got security for you to make sure of these terrible Muslims. So it's literally a psychological operation, and I want people to know that you have to separate the people that genuinely believe what they're saying versus people who are quite literally being given money and are defending psychopaths when it's very obvious. And I think October 7th, fast forwarding to where we are right now, with all of the information that's now out there, now that this debate has kind of arrived on the shores of America, meaning people are getting fired, excommunicated, being smeared, people that the information is accessible. And Charlie was changing. That's the reality. He just was. And they tried to bury this. And he said no. Here's an interesting fact. When Bibi went on a little mini tour and went on everyone's shows sometime in August, Charlie didn't let him on a show. Charlie said no to Bibi Netanyahu. When Bibi wanted to take Turning Point to the next level, Charlie said no. Okay, to Bibi Netanyahu, who is a gangster, you don't get to tell Bibi Netanyahu no. We all know this, and so I just want people to know the truth, which is that and obviously I released text messages. They've left me no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause. Now, does that mean that he would have been like not eating up everything going on in Minnesota and still would have been working through things? Sure, of course he would have.
Yeah, he was looking at things through a certain lens, a very right-wing, very Christian nationalist lens. I understand that. And again, he was young. And maybe if he was given time, maybe he would have like crossed over to the other side like you and said like, I believe that everything I said about, I don't know, it's a kind of a far-fetched, but maybe
we grew up with 9/11. That was the ultimate psychological operation. They made us stand up every day in school at
9/11.
9/11, so we would never
When they found
forget.
the passport, just like lying around.
But we were kids, right? Think about how young I was. So they know how to make an impression when you're a child and you're scared. When you don't know anything and you're scared, it's the perfect time to make an impression. Well, we'll take care of you. We're gonna make sure those evil Muslims don't come in the country. All you have to do is take off your shoes and your belts at the airport, and no more evil Muslims will get you. And you're like, okay, what do I have to do to comply with that? That's a psychological operation, and that's why when we even revealed yesterday, part of these Erica calls 5 days after her husband died, and she's appealing to Turning Point USA, the employees of it's okay, I'm gonna protect you. She uses this exact same strategy. I'm gonna protect you, your jobs are safe, we're a family now. After a trauma, it's trauma bonding. There's a trauma, and you don't know what's happening, but I'm here to keep you safe.
Now work your ass off and bring me some money.
Charlie's with us in the office.
In the office.
Don't go home. She literally says he wouldn't want you at home sitting on your couch.
He's watching you as you are alone with your sock in your bed.
He's dancing. He's dancing in heaven when you are in the office.
Oh my God! I can't believe the truth.
Oh wow!
It's just this is like emotional blackmailing on steroids.
What do you think? What do you think about Erica Kirk?
Erica Kirk?
What do you think about Erica Kirk?
Would I get sued?
Yeah.
Throw it in the pile. Of course you will.
I don't want to say anything that's controversial. She did it, but I don't want. She's on it.
I don't want to get into.
I don't want to get into the.
She did it.
It's a trauma.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's happening, but I'm here to keep you safe.
Now work your ass off and bring me some money.
Charlie's with us in the office.
In the office.
Don't go home. She literally says he wouldn't want you at home sitting on your couch.
He's watching you as you are alone with your sock in your bed.
He's dancing. He's dancing in heaven when you are in the office.
Oh my God! I can't believe the choice of words. It's just this is like emotional blackmailing on steroids.
What do you think? What do you think about Erica Kirk?
Erica Kirk?
What do you think about Erica Kirk?
Would I get sued?
Throw it in the pile. Of course you will.
I don't want to say anything that's controversial. She did it, but I don't want. She was on it.
I don't want to get into.
I don't want to get into. She's part of it.
I can't wait till that gets clipped.
She's a plant. But I would never. Say anything negative about.
What do you think? I mean, just on the outside of this, looking in as someone who was not a fan of Charlie Kirk,
I'll tell you what I think.
I actually appreciate hearing that perspective more because I see my own biases going into it.
I wish I would have Erica Kirk's grieving power. She grieves like no other.
Yeah.
I wish I would have had that kind of composure, grieving the people that I love like that, because she gives hope to every one of us. That
she don't give hope to nobody.
And you know what's funny is they were using the same, going back to the psychological operations where they're telling us to suspend rationality. Oh, yeah. And this is supernatural, and this is because God is with her, and even when she said to Jesse Waters that she didn't even need to take a sleeping pill, she didn't need to have a glass of wine, that she said she slept fine and accepted that this is what God wanted so instantly. And there's something about that is ChatGPT Christianity, where it's you're just going to keep saying God wanted this. It's no, being Christian we are flawed. We are not. Of course, you're going to contend with God. You're going to bargain with God. We don't get it right. Of course, you're going to ask questions. Why? Why did this have to happen? We're not perfect. We are not Jesus Christ.
What is bothering me even more than Erica Kirk is that, Erica is playing a part, but there's people
playing a part. Hi, Tony.
The American people, like the director of the FBI,
but it's hard.
Who even before he got into office, he said America needs to wake up and prioritize Israel, which is a very weird thing to say.
He lives in Las Vegas.
By FBI director.
With a dude.
Oh, that the honeypot? Oh, we should.
No, he doesn't live with her. She lives here.
Oh my God. Oh, she lives here and he lives with. I can't. He's the FBI director, and I don't know. I'm
just stating a fact.
I'm a new citizen here.
I'm just stating a fact.
But in Las Vegas, is this where
with a guy?
Security guy.
And
there's people who are supposed to serve the American people, like the director of the FBI, Mr. Kash Patel, who even before he got into office, he said America needs to wake up and prioritize Israel, which is a very weird thing to say.
He lives in Las Vegas.
By FBI director.
With a dude.
Oh, that the honeypot? Oh, we should.
No, he doesn't live with her. She lives here.
oh my God, oh, she lives here and he lives with it. Oh, I can. He's the FBI director, and I don't know. I mean, I'm
I'm
a
just
new,
stating a fact.
I'm a
The
new citizen here.
I'm
shade.
just stating a fact.
But
The
oh, Las Vegas,
shade.
is this where the
So
Israeli
Patel lived with
cybersecurity
a
guy was
guy, not his
also found out to
girl.
be a pedophile, and then he was let go? You know what's so funny
Oh
about this story?
wow.
I'm sure that everybody knows here about know this story. There's the head of the cybersecurity in Netanyahu's office. He comes to Las
Oh
Vegas,
wow.
and just to pass time, he was found with a minor, and it was a sting operation. But then he was allowed to leave. This happened in You know what's the most important thing about this is that not a
Who
single
was caught with a
media
child?
outlet,
What?
Like, you're just gonna keep saying God wanted this. Like, no, be.
citizen here.
I'm just stating a fact.
But oh, in Las Vegas, is this where the Israeli cybersecurity guy was also found out to be a pedophile, and then he was let go? You know what's so funny about this story?
Oh wow.
I'm sure that everybody knows here about know this story. There's the head of the cybersecurity in Netanyahu's office. He comes to Las Vegas, and just to pass time, he was found with a minor, and it was a sting operation. But then he was allowed to.
Somebody that lived in
This happened in
Vegas.
You know what's the most important thing about this is that not a single media outlet reported he needs to wake up and prioritize Israel, which is a very weird thing to say.
He lives
by-
in Las Vegas
by FBI director.
with a dude.
Oh, is that the honeypot? Oh, we should.
No, he doesn't live with her. She lives here.
Oh my God! Oh, she lives here and he lives with it. Oh, I can. He's the FBI director, and I don't know. I mean, I'm a
just
new
stating a fact.
I'm a new citizen here.
I'm just stating a fact.
But in Las Vegas, is this where the Israeli cybersecurity guy was also
Cybersecurity
found
guy.
out to be a pedophile, and then he was
Israeli.
let go? You know what's so funny about this story?
They never talked
I'm sure
about
that
it.
everybody knows here about know this story.
No, we don't.
There's the head of the cybersecurity in Netanyahu's office. He comes to Las Vegas, and just to pass time, he was found with a minor, and it was a sting operation. But then he was allowed to leave. This happened in You know what's the most important thing about this is that not a single media outlet reported that this ever happened. ABC, Fox News, CNBC, CNN, nothing. If you have a foreign country who's supposed to be your ally sending high security officers here, and they are not just once, many times, and they're involved in pedophile rings, and they're allowed to leave, but that's okay because we need to talk about the Somalis in Minneapolis. We need to talk about the Arabs in Michigan. It just, and then you have the acting
The
DA
whole-
happened to be an Israeli
ooh.
national who let him go. And nobody talks about this. And this is how they brand you to be a conspiracy theorist. When you start talking about stuff that's not circulating in the media, you become part of the fringe.
Yeah.
If you're not into this, if it didn't happen in the mainstream media, that didn't happen. Anybody who repeats that, he's a psycho, he's a conspiracy theorist, he's a flat earther,
Wow.
whatever. But it is, and now this is what I found out about coming here to the United States. As someone who comes from the third world country where we are used to censorship, and we are used to, not telling the truth as it is. Here, nobody will hide the truth, but they will choose not to tell it, and they will tell other stuff and give it a bigger mic. So someone like Jay Klang or Tommy Robinson, wherever they go and they start doing this agitation thing, they will find someone like Elon Musk with tens of millions of followers tweeting it, and now becomes news. But they will never say anything about the other stuff. So everything that you are faced with in the news is that the stuff that they want you to see. They will not hide it. Like, hey, we have democracy, but we'll not talk about it. This is how they selectively push the narrative. Like what happened October 7th. I call it shock and awe. You know how America went to Iraq and they used shock and awe? Like extreme attack. They do this. So, decapitated babies in ovens, pregnant
Yeah,
women having their
that's
and
it.
it has become so much of an
That's a part of their
emotional
culture. They were
shock that if you start questioning it, it's like, how come you question babies getting decapitated? The narrative, like what happened.
But that guy yesterday compared if people who listen to Candace as porn. Who does that? Why? Oh, they're sick, man. Oh,
October
they're just
7th. I
sick.
call it shock and awe. You know how America
Shock
went
and awe.
to Iraq and they used shock and awe, like extreme attack. They do this. So, decapitated babies, babies in ovens, pregnant women
So
having their
over the
and
top.
it has become so much of an emotional shock that if you start questioning it, it's like, how come you question babies getting decapitated? You're anti-Semitic. You don't like. You don't care about babies, and this is how they pushed it, and it becomes the news.
Yeah, I mean, that's Soviet propaganda, and this goes back to what I was saying about the Bolsheviks. I mean, one episode we were speaking about even the things that they told us about World War II and the things, and they panicked, and it was hilarious because in a couple of months later, Auschwitz Museum comes out and says the stuff that was said about Dr. Joseph Mengele, a lot of it was made up. He never did these things. He was actually before all of this respected doctor. Auschwitz Museum put this on their website, and
they changed the number from 4 million to 1 million overnight.
I mean, there's been a lot of changes, but you're not allowed to know history or how the numbers change. And I was grateful to sit down with Norm Finkelstein, and I asked him about that question, because he's like, my parents, one of his parents was in Auschwitz, and the other parent was, I'm blanking on which of the other camps they were in. And he said, he acknowledges it. He's like, yeah, of course. He said, my parents told me some people were taking the tattoos off and some people were putting them on. People that I believe were laundering their names. I spoke to him about this, making themselves victims, and they actually were the perpetrators of a lot of the crimes that were happening against Christians, mass murder of Christians, which we're not allowed to talk about. The number one victims of World War II were not Jews, it was Christians. People in the classroom to believe that the only victims that have ever existed in history were Jews, and that's just on its face false, and it is a lie. And we have to do a better job of getting out the truth.
And by the way, I wouldn't even
This is crazy.
mind if that was the story.
Yeah.
But the fact that they used that in order to
How many
inflict
movies?
Holocaust on other people.
It's
People,
crazy.
Palestinians who had nothing to do with, okay, Holocaust, 12 million Jews were killed. Whatever. But like we didn't do that. The Palestinians weren't part of it. You were actually pushed onto them. And you would actually kill other Jews in order to prevent anything else from happening. You know the crisis of Patria? Patria was a ship that came from Europe that has 1,500 Jewish refugees, 1940s, and the port of Haifa. And then the Haganah, which is like is one of the Israeli the Zionist gang, they blew it up because the British authorities wouldn't let it go, wouldn't let it dock, and they wanted to actually divert it to Mauritius. So they bombed it, and I think like they killed 150 Jews, their own people. They didn't care about Jews being killed in Germany, by the way. They didn't care about. They just used them as a bargaining chip in order to create Israel. So it's not really about being Jewish killed. They don't care. They don't really care.
Well,
It's the
because
same,
they're not-
same way
the
like
people we're
ISIS or
fighting are not
Qaeda. They don't
Jews.
care.
They're
about
not really
people's lives.
These are Satanists. We're not fighting Jews, and I always make that point of going backward and looking at the actual guiding theology. I'm gonna take a quick break and throw it to sponsors, because then I want to show them the clip of you on Piers Morgan, because I just think it was one of the best clips ever.
Oh, thank you.
All right, you guys. There's obviously a war on truth right now. You feel it, I feel it, and the biggest weapon that they
So you guys will be happy.
are already relying on credit cards, delivering a point in a way that is not controversial, and it makes you go, what is wrong with us as a society? It's dark humor, and they are the best at it. Take a look at this.
The question is, what is a proportionate response? Because it has been different from one tier to another. So if you look to this graph, for example, this is the death of Israeli and Palestinians, and it's changing from 1 year to year. It's like fluctuating like crypto. So my question is today, what is the going rate today for human life? I mean, 2014 was a great year for Ben Shapiro. 88 Israelis were died, and there was 2,329 Palestinians killed on the other side. That is one Israeli for 27 Palestinians. That is a very good exchange rate. What I'm saying is, what is the exchange rate for today? You guys will be happy. Hamas has absolutely no control in the West Bank. And since the beginning of this year, only through August, 37 Palestinian kids were killed. No music festival, no paragliding, no Hamas. Since the occupation of the West Bank, 7,000 Palestinians were killed. No music festival, no paragliding, no Hamas. This is the problem. Israel always victimizes itself, and I have never seen a victim putting their oppressor under siege and bombing them 24/7. Israel wants you to believe that they are the victim. Dealing with Israel is so difficult. It's like being in a relationship with a narcissistic psychopath. He you up, and then he makes you think it's your fault. I have two questions. The question is, how can you justify the killing in the West Bank where Hamas does not exist? And if the disproportionate response during over all of these years have actually worked, what will be new this time that did not happen before
I just want to. That was my question.
I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, just looking at it and going, wait a second, there's no Hamas there. Why are we just killing Palestinians for fun? And it was just brilliant. It genuinely was. It was brilliant.
Well, they're continuing. Like the Gaza war never ended. The ceasefire never happened. They killed more children since the ceasefire, more than Israeli kids were killed since 1948.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine?
That's incredible.
In 3 weeks, they killed more children from the Palestinian side, more than Israeli kids were killed all through 75 years.
Do you know what I always say to people, and it astonishes me that they can't think through this. If you think just because it's happening over there, like you're going to agree with these people, you're going to back these people up, you're going to maybe take a check, $7,000, maybe it's $100,000 to attack people that are standing up and saying this is wrong. But you can't be so dense as to think that they won't kill you too. That's what mind-boggling is. Like you realize that when they want America, they'll kill your kids too.
Isn't that happening also?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't like ICE has been trained by the IDF? Isn't that the same tactics that's used by ICE and used by many of the police departments? They get trained. They're actually one of the ICE offices when they did like locations like kind of 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
So why are all of these American security entities are playing out from Tel Aviv? But the question is stupid because you have all of these billionaires, Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, Larry Ellison. They just like they have a weird affair with Israel. They openly donate to the IDF. They openly have their headquarters in Israel. They pump huge amount of money. They use their technology in order to kill more Palestinians, and they use Palestinians as rat labs in order to test these AI advanced horrible lethal weapons. It's terrible. And now America is using it. America now is invading the world. And I have to tell you, as an immigrant, as a new immigrant in this country, I'm enjoying it. I'm for the first time, I'm on the side where history is happening to somewhere else. It is amazing.
Right.
I'm telling you, I'm kind of getting used to this feeling of being in a country that can do whatever the hell it wants without no consequences. It's a great feeling. It's amazing. I mean, I have this kind of, I don't know. It seems that people from the third world who came to country, their childhood trauma is now our country's foreign policy.
Sadly, yeah. Sadly, and I just don't think people understand. You can't go halfway with a psychopath.
Can y'all hear me?
Anything. They kill people. They kill a child, and then you defend that. Why do you think your kids are safe? I just don't understand the common sense of that.
I'm telling you, it is such a difference to live in a country like America that can invade half of the world and still host the Olympics.
I know.
They can go and invade your country, and then the next day it's like, I'm going to host the FIFA World Cup, and I'm going to deny your people the entry visa. That is like one huge boss level kind of control.
Yeah.
And now I'm actually happy that that's happening to Denmark, and then we're gonna get Greenland, because now I know it's not about brown people.
It's I don't even know what we're doing anymore. And I'm like, I got behind Trump. We're supposed to do no new wars, and then it's like Bibi's like, here's what you're gonna do. Here's what you're gonna do. Yeah. Obviously, look, he took Mary Madelson's money, and so I don't even pay attention to it anymore.
I'm just happy because now I know that America doesn't see color; it sees opportunity.
It
see green.
Like Muslim people,
It do see color. It sees green. Money.
I mean, clearly.
Do you think like America is now like the
but
word?
It's not even America.
America is like the HOA of the world. It's like we see that you cannot use it.
It's not true. I promise you, it is not America. We might have been brainwashed, but this is very clearly like an Israeli empire, and LBJ murdered JFK, got his boys in there, and took over our military. And everything else is just noise and Hollywood and manipulation, and now it's cracking. And now people are looking up and going, wait, why are we being so controlled? Why are our kids being led to believe that they have to support Zionism? Why am I not allowed to make a decision about whether I think this or think that? The fake algorithm, pretending that people are popular when they're not. And so the mass awakening has them a bit panicked. They're making a lot of mistakes right now. Case in point, going after Miss Rachel seems like an unbelievable mistake. But I do think the biggest threat to their empire is the awareness. And that's why they're like sloppy. Like, we're just going to buy TikTok. I don't think the money is the real power. The illusion, the trick was actually the illusion. We all believed they were the victims. We watched the movies. We were in the classroom. We bought into the 9/11 rhetoric. The danger for them is when all of a sudden it go 330 million people, if that's something in America now, wake up and go, wait a second, I actually think what you're doing is pretty horrific. What's their next move?
I'll tell you, American citizens now are waking up to the fact how easy it is to go from a first world country citizen to a third world country citizen. Because here's the difference. People in the developed world, in Africa and Asia and Latin America, we all know. We know the people in power, they're corrupt. We all the people in power, they are terrible. They have all kinds of bad things happening, but we cannot speak up because it's too dangerous. So we shut up, but everybody knows. In America, everybody knows and everybody can talk. You can talk, but we dare you to change anything. So you vote, you talk, you protest, you go online, nobody will put you in jail. You feel like you participated, but the end result is nothing changes. They look at you and say, yes, the Epstein files. Yeah, there's victim. Nothing will happen. You have evidence. You have evidence about Epstein. Every single TV show, every single comedy show is making fun of it, but nothing is really moving forward. You see the difference? Yeah, I'm giving you this margin of liberty, but do you think you can do anything with the liberty? What if Trump tomorrow decides he's going to run for a third term? What will happen? What, a federal judge will just like put some... What will happen? What, you're going to get the military to remove him from office? What will prevent them from kind of putting like enforcing martial laws or starting to take your liberties? We have to, because the world has been desensitized by how much violence that happened in the Middle East, that now people are kind of like they are desensitized. It can happen to us anytime now, and
do you think that they're going to do it?
I mean, you said that what is the next thing? We have seen this. We've seen what they can do on the level of the universities, because like 3 years ago, you wouldn't even imagine that American university will be having the same treatment that we see in brutal dictatorship that would justify military intervention. We have seen people losing their jobs, losing their careers, being beaten, being arrested, being shot, having NYPDs and LAPDs having Israeli special operations officers on site with them. What would prevent them from doing that outside of the university campus? You see, it is the same thing happening, but you're moving very slowly there, because the moment that they lose control, when there's no more TikToks to buy, there's no more HBOs or CNN to buy, there's no more ways to put in them, you will find the system becoming more and more brutal.
You think so? So I would say they do seem to be becoming more brutal, but they're also becoming brutally stupid. Meaning that, okay, so the goal with having people go in there and, oh, we're going to drag you out, we're going to kick you out of the country because you said something against Israel, has just made my generation go, okay, we're not going to send our kids there. But the power wasn't us sending our kids there and then brainwashing our kids. Like, you actually need the kids there to believe in the illusion. So as soon as you start letting us know that there's actually no freedom and that these are actually little indoctrination centers that are being run by Israel, and we're now speaking to our kids coming up about what Israel is, you are fighting to lose to lose the control that you have. Same thing with speech, right? As soon as Larry Ellison and all of them are out there like, we need to buy TikTok, do you think that made TikTokers pro-Israel or anti-Israel? Like, does it actually work long-term to say, well, we've got the power, okay, it's power versus the people. Do you think power wins, or are the people going to win?
That's why I say you're going to be on the trajectory where it's going to be becoming more brutal, more stupid, until they completely lose control. I don't know how many years, but we're heading to that direction. Because here's the difference between third world countries and the Western countries. Because I was told this when I was growing up. It's like, oh my God, you're in the Middle East, you have all of these red lines, you cannot cross the red lines. And I come to here to the United States, like, it's true, you don't have any red lines, but you have two blue lines. You cannot cross these two blue lines. That's your only lines. So you can talk about the president, you can make fun of the president, about the Democrats, about the government, about the judge. Nothing is off limit. But when you cross these two blue lines with a little bit of star in the middle, this is where we get you. And now you know who has the power. So I think the more and more people are waking up, the more brutal that we're going to become, the more outspoken, more stupid, more blunt, in your face they're going to become. And then at a certain point, people will either give up, disenfranchise, or just people go underground, and you will see a violent counterattack coming from the people.
I actually think you're right. I think you're absolutely right, because thinking about that. If they came out and they were like, "Oh, we're going to run Trump for a third term," or if they just came out and were like, "You know what? You guys have no power. We're going to install Bibi Netanyahu as president of the United States." What would we actually do?
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Because people took for granted. Oh, the president's going to be there for a couple of years, a couple of terms, and he's going to leave. What happens if he doesn't? Oh, the president cannot put me in jail because of my opinion. Now it's happening. People are being deported, being put in jail. People are losing government contracts. You have 37, 38 states that have laws that you cannot boycott Israel, which is crazy. That's actually that's a law.
Yeah.
So they're already doing that. And I asked the question in one of my videos, what will prevent them? Nothing. I don't know if you're following what happens to the anti-Israel voices in Europe. You know, we always hear about America sanctioning a country, right? There's sanctions on China, sanctions on Iran. You know what happens when you sanction a person? When you sanction a person, and they did that from a couple of the judges in the ICC, they sanctioned the judge. He's Dutch. This guy cannot have access to their bank account, cannot have anything, like he cannot have money, he cannot buy a ticket, he cannot pay his own bills. He's just like a ghost. This is what happens when America sanctions a person in a foreign country. What prevents America from sanctioning you and just like wiping out your bank accounts or deport or denaturalize you and then send you home or put you in jail? What would prevent
So a couple of things I would say. I would push back and say, first and foremost, we're a big country.
Yes.
America's not like a little European country, big country. Also, our general attitude is very different. Like I remark whenever I go to the UK at how polite even like their protesters are. Like when I was being protested, when I was speaking at some UK campuses, me and Charlie, they were like very polite. They were like holding signs and were like, "We would really like you not to be here." And I was like, "Oh, okay, thank you." That was it. America's a little ratchet in those ways. America is a nation that they actually trained up for generations to always revolt. Like, I mean, we're constantly in revolt at all times.
Okay,
and so I'm not sure that when they start showing up to doors, and we saw this recently down in Miami, where the police officer showed up and was like, "Did you send this tweet?" I don't know that, the country that brought you BLM riots and is going to be like, "No, that's fine." Like, we're just going to be like knocking on people's doors being like, "Here's the tweet."
May I challenge this point?
Yeah, of course. I'd love you to challenge it.
Because the same country who, had the BLM riots, the same country who stood against Vietnam, and the same country who stood against the Iraq war, this same country, again, we've seen a microsome of what they can do in colleges, which is the most vibrant, most active, most useful, most energetic places in the United States, University Complex. And we have seen what happens to those young kids. They were...
Okay, I need to switch gears and respond to footage. Trump official call. I wanted to end on somebody told her that she couldn't somebody had told her that she couldn't interact with him, and I think she was hell-bent. Shocking discovery judge. She's hell-bent on bringing him on her show. I just wanted to hear their take on the Zionists. Why is your president suing the IRS?
Well, a TPUSA former employee says the organization is infiltrated by Mossad. Also, new videos of Erica Kirk shows her behaving very strangely shortly after Charlie's death. This mixed with Charlie's bizarre adoption of Jewish customs. Erica's
What is the high? Well, It was something I had earlier. Let's go.
Welcome to the Court of History. I'm Sidney Blumenthal. I'm here with my co-host, Sean Wilentz, distinguished historian, author of The Rise of American Democracy. Sean, it looks like there's a circular firing squad at the White House.
Yeah, everybody's blaming everybody, including, they're blaming the people in Minneapolis, they're blaming people in different offices in the White House. It's a terrible mess. But, it's a mess of their own making.
Yeah, Stephen Miller, who is the architect of the ICE raids, has now said that it's the others who were to blame, and it fired Gregory Bovino, the commander-at-large of ICE, who has been leading the assault, SS troops on the ground.
Well, and having called, the poor man who was killed, if you call it a domestic terrorist or an assassin or something like that 3 days ago, then all of a sudden it's not, no.
Signs it.
And then there's Christy Nome, who's brought in, who's just Stephen Miller's mouthpiece, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
And, but...
That's been complimentary, actually, but go ahead.
Yeah, so, it's a mess in there. I wish the press would report what's going on, and we still haven't heard what Susie Wiles is doing. But, I'd love to hear from somebody, as they say in the musical Hamilton, somebody who has been in the room where it happens. And we have somebody, strangely enough, who has been in the room with a number of these people, Olivia Troy. She has served as the Homeland Security and Counterterrorism Advisor to former Vice President Mike Pence. She served on the White House Coronavirus Task Force.
The Low Point, hosted by Shantae Lowe, sponsored by Novartis on Players TV.
Warner, just about the efforts by Donald Trump and this administration to really intervene in the 2026 elections and elections moving forward. And the Attorney General, you have so many hats you wear. I think people watching should understand. The Attorney General has requested the Minnesota voting records. We've seen what happens in Fulton County. Last night, we've learned about new roles Tulsi Gabbard has taken on. Do you see this request for the Minnesota records to be related, all of these issues to be related to this effort to intervene in the 2026 elections?
What is going on tonight? Trump asked tonight if he's pulling back, and he said, okay, hold on.
The existing evidence clearly shows that they have escalated the number of ICE agents in order to achieve ends other than those they state, one of those being to deliver our voting rolls. I mean, Pam Bondi sent a letter to our governor saying that we can get rid of the chaos if you give us certain things, including voter roll information. And my answer to that is, I'll see you in court. We'll never hand the federal government anything that it is not absolutely and explicitly legally entitled to. We will fight them in court. We will not back down. And we're never going to give up 1 inch on Minnesota sovereignty, not at all. But we will have a reasonable conversation, and we'll comply with federal and state law as it is written right now. And that's no problem. I want to be clear. My conversation with Holman was cordial, and I was glad he was interested in talking to us. But, we're going to comply with the law it's written, and no bully tactics from Pam Bondi or Donald Trump are going to change that.
Well, I hope other attorney generals have your backbone. They're going to need it in the months ahead. Thank you so much for being here with me tonight and for all you're doing for the people of Minnesota.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay, it has been a little over a week now since ICE detained this 5-year-old Liam Ramos and his father in Minneapolis and sent them to a detention center in Texas. And for more than a week now, people all over the country have been demanding his release and demanding to learn something, anything,
about how little Liam is doing. Yesterday, Congressman Joaquin Castro was finally able to see him, and Congressman Castro joins me live here right after a break.
A 5-year-old in detention without his parents.
Boosted test.
Oh, yeah, I need it.
Try Tide. It's boosted. The other stuff can't match Tide's Boosted Clean. Test passed.
Smells like clean dirt.
It's cleaner, whiter, brighter, and fresher. It's got to be Tide.
Boosted! I still love to surf, snowboard, and of course skate. So I take Cunol Magnesium to support my muscle and bone health. Cunol's high absorption magnesium glycinate helps me get the full benefits of magnesium. Cunol.
With 278 days until the next election, protesters are winning tonight, and Donald Trump continued his retreat today with new polls, including a Fox poll, showing the country has completely turned against Donald Trump's invasion of Minneapolis. The biggest change in the polls is the number of Republicans who have dramatically increased in opposing Donald Trump's invasion of Minneapolis. The polls show Donald Trump has gone too far in his cruelty all over the country, including in Maine, where the state's Republican senator publicly announced Donald Trump's retreat today because she needs Donald Trump to retreat for her to have any hope of winning re-election in the state of Maine this year. Here's the sound of Donald Trump himself in retreat today.
Hopefully we won't have a shutdown. We're working on that right now. I think we're getting close. The Democrats, I don't believe, want to see it either. So we'll work in a very bipartisan way, I believe, not to have a shutdown.
When has Donald Trump ever sounded like that at the threat of a shutdown? Senate Democrats were ready to shut down the government over the funding of Donald Trump's invasion forces, and Donald Trump caved. Donald Trump caved to Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer announced that the Senate Democrats would shut down the government over this. And Donald Trump said, "Oh, let's talk. How can we avoid this?" The Republican Senate leader caved right along with Donald Trump. They are in retreat, and so Democrats in the Senate will allow other funding bills to go forward, but not the funding for Donald Trump's invasion forces in Minneapolis who murdered Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And we are all witnesses now. We have all seen the video. We're all witnesses to that video that showed what happened to those people at the hands of those federal agents, and we can all see as witnesses that it was murder. When the United States government retreats, it never uses the word retreat. In Vietnam, the generals and the Republican president called it de-escalation. That's the word that Donald Trump used this week about Minneapolis, de-escalate. Donald Trump learned that word during the end of the Vietnam War. Donald Trump's so-called border czar used the language of the American Vietnam retreat today when he talked about what the generals in Vietnam used to call the drawdown.
We are not surrendering our mission at all. We're just doing smarter. We can draw down those resources. But based on the discussions I've had with the governor and the AG, we can start drawing down those resources. So the drawdown is going to happen based on these agreements. The agreements that happen alone is going to cause a significant drawdown. So you're going to see a drawdown. My main focus now is drawdown.
Sounds like an American general in Vietnam. The American government never uses the word retreat, never uses the word surrender, except to deny that they're doing it when they are doing it. That is how de-escalate entered our military language in Vietnam. That is how drawdown entered our military language in Vietnam when we were on our way to mounting a full retreat and a total surrender. In the first war the United States of America lost outright and never admitted losing, the anti-war protesters won. The protesters against the war in Vietnam won, and they forced America to leave Vietnam. That is the story of that de-escalation and that drawdown. And the protesters are winning tonight. For Tom Homan, of all people, to be able to stand in front of reporters for 15 minutes today without a single question being asked about the undercover FBI video of him accepting $50,000 in cash from undercover FBI agents in 2024. 2 people had to die.
Hey,
Tom Homan is the only person
seen
in the
about a
history
little.
of federal government employment to be offered a job in the federal government by the president after FBI undercover agents recorded him on video accepting $50,000 in cash in an undercover investigation of Tom Homan, who of course says he did nothing wrong. Those reporters today have never before in their lives been in the presence of a federal government employee who was caught on an FBI undercover video by FBI undercover agents accepting $50,000 in cash from those agents. And those reporters, understandably, within the time they had, did not ask him a single question about the $50,000. Because the more important issue of murder of American citizens by the American government on the streets of Minneapolis was what brought Tom Homan to Minneapolis, where he was welcomed by the governor and the mayor as a relief from the deadly, dangerous, and incompetent people who have been in charge of Donald Trump's invasion forces in Minneapolis. Yes, Tom Homan is a more reasonable person to deal with than the unalterably evil, lying Stephen Miller, because anyone is better than Stephen Miller. Yes, Tom Homan is a better person to deal with than the incompetent, clownish, and lying Kristi Noem, who was silenced by Donald Trump in his phony TV cabinet meeting today. She was not allowed to speak. She was humiliated and silenced in that room.
What?
Attorney General Pamela Bondi was also not allowed to speak at the TV cabinet meeting today.
What?
She was not allowed to speak. She was humiliated. Tom Homan is a better person to deal with than the incompetent, clownish, and lying Kristi Noem, who was silenced by Donald Trump in his phony TV cabinet meeting today. She was not allowed to speak. She was humiliated and silenced in that room. Attorney General Pamela Bondi was also not allowed to speak in that room today after she had just returned from Minneapolis, where she was also not allowed to speak publicly when she was in Minneapolis. All of this has happened
Can y'all
because
believe
Donald
that?
Trump knows he has to retreat. Room today after she had just returned from Minneapolis, where she was also not allowed to speak publicly when she was in Minneapolis.
Smart man.
All of this has happened
Smart ass couldn't
because
say
Donald
nothing.
Trump knows he
Oh no, you lying to me.
Yes, Tom Homan is a better person to deal with than the incompetent, clownish, and lying Kristi Noem, who was silenced by Donald Trump in his phony TV cabinet meeting today. She was not allowed to speak. She was humiliated and silenced in that room. Attorney General Pamela Bondi was also not allowed to speak in that room today after she had just returned from Minneapolis, where she was also not allowed to speak publicly when she was in Minneapolis. All of this has happened because Donald Trump knows he has to retreat. It's happening because the protesters are winning. Donald Trump knows every day he keeps his invasion forces in the state of Maine, makes it impossible for Republican Senator Susan Collins to get reelected there. And so Donald Trump is retreating from Maine. He's getting the troops out of there. Donald Trump knows that he is losing Republican voter support now on an issue where he always had their support, because he has turned his invasion forces into masked, cowardly agents of death. And so Donald Trump is doing, and Tom Homan is doing, what the protesters in Minneapolis have been telling them to do. Anyone is better than Stephen Miller. Yes, Tom Homan is a better person to deal with than the incompetent, clownish, and lying Kristi Noem, who was silenced by Donald Trump in his phony TV cabinet meeting today. She was not allowed to speak. She was humiliated and silenced in that room. Attorney General Pamela Bondi was also not allowed to speak in that room today after she had just returned from Minneapolis, where she was also not allowed to speak publicly when she was in Minneapolis. All of this has happened because Donald Trump knows he has to retreat. It's happening because the protesters are winning. Donald Trump knows every day he keeps his invasion forces in the state of Maine, makes it impossible for Republican Senator Susan Collins to get reelected there. And so Donald Trump is retreating from Maine. He's getting the troops out of there. Donald Trump knows that he is losing Republican voter support now.
He normally let them lose.
He always had their support because he has turned his invasion forces into masked, cowardly agents of death. And so Donald Trump is doing, and Tom Homan is doing what the protesters in Minneapolis have been telling them to do. De-escalate, draw down, retreat, get out of Minneapolis. The protesters are winning. Donald Trump is losing, and Tom Homan has been sent to Minneapolis to manage the retreat while never calling the retreat. And Donald Trump is very easily and quickly reaching bipartisan agreements with Senate Democrats to avoid a government shutdown over the funding of Donald Trump's murderous invasion forces. The protesters did all of that. The protesters have already achieved more than it seemed possible they could achieve just last week, and they have achieved it faster than it seemed possible. And the protesters have even won the hearts and minds of some Republicans who are turning against Donald Trump in the polls on this issue. Donald Trump is losing, and the protesters are winning. The protesters have silenced Stephen Miller's poison and hatred. That's not Stephen Miller's choice. You know he wants to be on social media calling the protesters terrorists. You know he wants to be on TV screaming and continuing to call all of the protesters domestic terrorists. He wants to call the people who were murdered domestic terrorists, but Donald Trump will not let him do that. Donald Trump allowed none of his pretend tough talkers to go on social media or go on TV to continue to lie about the two people Donald Trump's invasion forces murdered in Minneapolis, Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Donald Trump took away the social media privileges of the now disgraced commander of his invasion forces in Minneapolis, Gregory Bavino, who is now lost in America somewhere. He used to be on television every day making sure he wasn't wearing his mask in Minneapolis as he was throwing gas at protesters, peaceful protesters, so his face would be recognizable, so he could cash in on a nice right-wing media contract after he left federal employment. But now Donald Trump doesn't want the invasion force commander who said to Alex Preddy, quote, wanted to massacre law enforcement to be seen by anyone, anywhere. When Donald Trump decided to pull Agent Bavino out of Minneapolis, he called him, quote, kind of out there guy, a kind of out there guy. And that's the last thing Donald Trump said about Bavino. Imagine what it's like to be the viciously reflexive, hateful Stephen Miller or Greg Bavino ordered by Donald Trump not to touch their little social media toys to spew poison and lying hatred about the people murdered by federal agents in Minneapolis. Imagine how their fingers twitch as they look at their phones craving a chance to spew more poison and hatred on their social media accounts about those victims, those murdered victims. But Donald Trump is in retreat, and they have been ordered to not say a word about those victims, not another word.
Wow.
The pro-democracy forces now wide awake and surging in terms of their numbers and courage, dug in on one side, and Donald Trump with his band of autocratic enablers on the other. The country in some ways feels like it's engaged in a game of chicken, waiting to see which side's going to blink first. A stare down, if you will, where the stakes are nothing less than the future of American democracy. Today, though, following the fatal shootings of two people in Minneapolis at the hands of federal immigration officers, and subsequently the breathtaking durability and scope of protests from ordinary citizens braving the bitter cold to protect their neighbors, hitting the pavement in protest all across our country day after day, it is the Trump side doing the blinking. Now, why could that be? Well, because the gears of democracy, cobwebs and all, are finally creaking back into action on three separate but important fronts today. First, in state houses from coast to coast, New York Times reports this, quote, Ever since the second Trump administration embarked on its large-scale deportation efforts, Democratic-leaning states have proposed and passed, in some instances, countermeasures, such as banning masked or unidentified law enforcement officers. Last month, a dozen legislators from 7 states announced that they would coordinate legislation in 2026 to complement the litigation already being used by Democratic attorneys general to challenge immigration policies. But after the killings of both Mr. Preddy and Renee Good, a resident protesting ICE's presence in the Twin Cities, those endeavors have gained more urgency. That's according to lawmakers and immigration rights groups. The jet fuel possibly animating that urgency happens to be the second of those 3 fronts we talked about. That is us, the American people at large, in growing numbers, because voters right now are making it abundantly clear that they are not interested in waiting the 9 months between now and the midterms. They're using their feet, they're using their body. They're putting Donald Trump and the Republicans on notice that they do not approve of what they're doing, especially the extreme immigration measures being carried out against human beings, including American citizens, in the name of the American people. Tomorrow at this time, it's possible, it is likely that we could be covering widespread protests, and possibly there's some talk that we could also be covering some general strikes in some parts of the country. There's a third front, our justice system. Just in the last 24 hours, judges in separate cases have acted decisively to try to rein in the seeming impunity of Donald Trump's immigration policies and authorities. In one instance, a federal judge in Minnesota ordered the government to cease detaining and deporting refugees who were lawfully admitted to our country and immediately release those currently held for re-examination.
Yeah, that 5-year-old baby in Texas, that was not a good look at all.
Picked ICE apart. That judge said that ICE has violated nearly 100 court orders as part of what they're branding as an aggressive crackdown. From that ruling, quote, "This list of violated court orders should give pause to anyone, no matter his or her political beliefs, about who cares about the rule of law. ICE has likely violated more court orders in January 2026 than some federal agencies have violated in their entire existence. ICE is not a law unto itself. ICE has every right to challenge the orders of this court, but like any litigant, ICE must follow those orders unless and until they are overturned or vacated." These 3 buckets, these 3 avenues of pressure are clearly registering with Donald Trump and the White House.
And
as part of that game of chicken we talked about, Donald Trump is going about some subtle changes to his immigration language and his enforcement policies.
That information,
as the pro-democracy forces in America muster their might ahead of tomorrow and
whatever
comes
she
next.
gave the
As we'll
courts.
start today with some of our most favorite reporters and friends. Publisher of The Bulwark, host of the Focus Group podcast, Sarah Longwell, is here.
That'll
My
make
friend and
it
colleague, senior
about face
political
2.
analyst, contributing host of Pod Save
Can y'all
America,
hit the like
host
button,
of the
please?
podcast Runaway Country, Alex Wagner is back with us, and former top DOJ official, legal analyst Andrew Weissman's here as well. Sarah Longwell, let me start with you. What do you see happening in the country in terms of the public mood?
Well, I listen to voters week in and week out in focus groups, and I cannot overstate how big of a shift there has been on just Minneapolis. And one of the things I want to start out with is just the fact that everybody knows what is happening. I talk a lot about what it takes to break through in this noisy information environment. Voters often, we will be talking about something on the show or in Washington, and voters won't have heard about it. Not only has everybody heard about these shootings, but everybody's seen the videos. They've examined them for themselves. And people were already deeply uneasy after the shooting of Renee Good. But to have a second shooting with Alex Preddy, where I got to say, for voters, the Preddy shooting is just much more clear cut. They looked at the Renee Good one, and people were able to tell themselves, well, she was in the car, and how was the car turning? The masked agents, 6 of them jumping on Alex Preddy, shooting him in the back, him clearly having his hands up, just trying to defend a woman that an ICE agent had shoved into the snow, has created a really different environment where people are now saying they are fed up with these sort of over zealousness of these ICE agents, the fact that they're paroling the streets in masks, the backlash. And look, obviously, hardcore Trump voters, many of them will stick with him on this, but the vast majority of the country is just reaching kind of a tipping point on not only do they think this is wrong, what is happening, right? They hired Trump to secure the border. They hired Trump to deport dangerous criminals from the country, but they did not want this, people in our streets. The other thing is, Donald Trump is not doing the thing that voters hired him to do the most, right? If the economy was booming and people's prices were
Release
going
the
down,
Epstein
they
files.
might, sometimes voters can forgive Trump for a lot of the things he does in that context. But at a time when Trump is not addressing their concerns and he's creating chaos in the streets and they're shooting Americans, that's when you start to see public opinion really start to move.
Sarah Longwell, the child separation practice has been, thanks to people like Jacob Soboroff and other great journalism and activists, has been part of the Trump story. But to your point, people are now focusing in on the plight of young children like Liam Ramos, who was used, not just detained in Minneapolis, but used as bait to lure out other family members at a time when, to your point, everyone has seen the images of how Alex Putty was killed. I wonder if the whole project of going after the worst of the worst has now been blown apart as a lie.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a few lies, actually, that American voters understand. And again, I just can't overstate how interesting it is to me to hear Trump voters, and many of the people we've been talking to have been Trump voters, talking about Ramos, talking about, I mean, they know these stories, and many of them are calling for Kristi Noem to be impeached or gotten rid of, which I was actually pretty surprised to hear Trump voters saying. Now, these are swingier voters, people who went from Biden to Trump, but they say that this idea of using kids as bait, of going into schools, of going into churches, these are the kinds of things that Americans reject. They say, yes, get dangerous criminals, but somebody who's been here for 20 years, like, don't come into our streets and start dragging our neighbors out. Like, they want a policy solution to it, but they do want people to be treated humanely. Like, the American people have not lost every sense of what is decent and what is right, and they think that using kids as bait is wrong. Separating kids from their families is wrong. That was true in the Trump first administration, and it's true now.
Sarah, I think we have some footage from your focus groups. Let me play that for our viewers.
Whenever there's a highly publicized police shooting, and it's getting publicized because there's questions over whether it was a good shoot, I think in law enforcement there's usually you have to put yourself in that moment. You have to understand they were making a quick decision. You have to understand, like, law enforcement is usually quick to, I don't want to say defend, but kind of explain or justify why it was a good shoot or a bad shoot. And over the last few weeks,
Release the Epstein files. I agree.
Harder for people around me to have, like, a good faith conversation about why something was a good shoot.
Hey, I'm sorry, I'm just not seeing you.
The most recent one in Minneapolis.
ICE has single-handedly set police back
Gonna have to get ready to go.
50 to 100 years easily. I'm
Sorry.
glad that,
I'll see y'all tomorrow.
I pulled out, because I would kind of hate to be a cop right now, because you're dealing with